Parshas Behar, Tovshinai Tes. We're moving right along, about 2 weeks to Shavuos, so we already have Shavuos on our minds, Kabbalah Torah on our minds, but we don't want to veer off our Parsha of the week, Shir, Nesivos Shalom. So we're going to stick to the Parsha. And at the beginning of this week's Parsha, we speak about Shemitah every 7th year. In Eretz Yisrael, every 7th year, you do not work the land. And there's a very famous question, Nesivos Shalom brings down, a very famous question that is asked about the beginning of Parshas Behar. And the Torah, when telling us about Shemitah, the Torah says, Ki savoyu el haaretz, when you will come to Eretz Yisrael. Now they're on their way, they left Mitzrayim, spent all 40 years in the Midbar, and then Ki savoyu el haaretz. When you come to Eretz Yisrael, the Pasuk tells us, V'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Lashem, that the land should rest. V'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Lashem. So really, the famous question is that wasn't the order of how things would actually progress when they got to Eretz Yisrael. Because we know, first there were 6 years of actually working the land. And as the Psukim continue and say to us, and only then, after the 6 years of working the land, only then did you keep Shemitah. So there was 6 years of working, and the 7th year was Shabbos Lashem. The 7th year was Shemitah, you did not work the land. So why does the Pasuk say, Ki savoyu el haaretz, when you come to Eretz Yisrael, V'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Lashem, that the land will rest for Shabbos Lashem. If it's not the case, you're actually going to work the land for 6 years, and only then will you have a Shabbos Lashem. Famous question that's asked about the beginning of this week's Parsha. So the Shalom tells us, he brings a Zohar in Chelek Gimel. The Zohar speaks about a pasuk from Tehillim. And the pasuk in Tehillim says as follows, B'tach b'Hashem, right? Have bitochen in Hashem, ba'asei toiv, shechon eretz u're'ei emunah. Have bitochen in Hashem, and then shechon ba'aretz. You'll be able to dwell and live in the land, u're'ei emunah, the pasuk ends. Be boiteach in Hashem, and you have emunah in order that you should be zoicha to dwell in the land of Eretz Yisrael. What's the message that David HaMelech is telling us in this pasuk? What's the message being given to us? David HaMelech is saying, the message being given to us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Hashem wants to tell us, and that Hashem wants to bring us to Eretz Yisrael. He wants us, He wanted at that time, He wants now that we should live and we should be able to be Zoicha, the whole Klal Yisrael, to live in Eretz Yisrael. And we have to be, Hashem wants us to have the schus, to have the extra Kedusha that Eretz Yisrael brings, because that's where a Yid, that's the land of a Yid. The land of a Yid is in Eretz Yisrael. And how do we do that? How are we Zoicha to that extra special Kedusha? How do we get there? The Pasuk tells us in Tehillim, only through bitachon. Bitach b'Hashem ba'asei toiv, then shechon eretz. Then you'll be able to live and to dwell in Eretz Yisrael. And there's a Pasuk in our parsha also. The Pasuk tells us, V'yishavtem al haaretz, what? Levetach. You'll be able to live in Eretz Yisrael, levetach. And we can say, darshan on that Pasuk, that when you have midas habitachon, when a person knows, and when we begin and we understand and we realize that every bit of our support and our sustenance has zero to do with us. It has nothing to do with us. Hashem shows us by Shemitah that this has nothing to do with you. There's a gzeira, b'zei asapecha toich alechem. You have to work the land. But it's a curse, it's a gzera. You don't have to be machmir on that. Believe, trust, have bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when we realize that it has nothing to do with us, that every single penny that we have is only with the Ratzon Hashem, then you are now ready to dwell. You are now ready to live in Eretz Yisrael. You are now ready to attain the special Kedusha that Eretz Yisrael gives us. So our parsha begins with Ki savoyu el haaretz asher ani nosein lochem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, Ki savoyu el haaretz, you come to Eretz Yisrael, but asher ani nosein lochem. The key word here being asher ani. Hashem is saying, when you come to Eretz Yisrael, you have the clarity of bitachon that Hashem is the one who is giving you your parnasa. That Hashem is the one who is giving you Eretz Yisrael. Hashem is the one who is allowing you to live in the land and support yourself. When you have that clarity of bitachon, that everything is coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and everything is being run by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's not koichi ba'otzim yadi. It's not you. Nothing is in your power. When you realize that, and you realize Asher ani nosein lochem, then the pasuk says, "V'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Hashem." Then you'll be able to land. Then the land will be Shabbos Hashem. Through the emunah and bitachon, you'll be able to have a kiyum. You'll be able to exist for ruchnius and for gashmius. You'll be able to feel the real kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. Then b'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Hashem, you'll be zoicha to have Eretz Yisrael, and that is why the Torah tells us right away. We had this question about the beginning of the parsha. What do you mean that when you come into Eretz Yisrael b'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Hashem, first you're going to work the land for 6 years? It says in the Nesivos Shalom, we're not talking about that right now. B'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Hashem tells you Ki savoyu el haaretz asher ani nosein lochem. When you understand that everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then that is how we are zoicha to have Eretz Yisrael. B'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Hashem. Not that you'll stop working the land before you work for 6 years. No. B'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Hashem, you'll be zoicha to have the menucha. You'll be zoicha to live in the land of Eretz Yisrael. Ki savoyu el haaretz asher ani nosein lochem. That when you come to Eretz Yisrael, you're going to realize that it's all HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You'll realize that you'll be zoicha to the milas of living in Eretz Yisrael. And of course, it's not that Shemitah will be before the 6 years. And the question really is, now that we gave an understanding of how we're zoicha to live in Eretz Yisrael, and how our real kiyum in Eretz Yisrael comes from bitachon, the question really is, why is it that this problem of koichi ba'otzim yadi, where a person feels that it's my strength, my brains, my power, my way of doing things, when a person feels that way, the Torah says it a number of times that it's an especially big problem in Eretz Yisrael. When it comes to Eretz Yisrael, koichi ba'otzim yadi and Eretz Yisrael do not go together. Why is that? The Torah says it a number of times, and it must be for a reason. So Nesivos Shalom tells us that when the Torah tells us about Eretz Yisrael, the Torah tells us Eretz Asher Hashem Elokecha. Eretz Yisrael is special. It is a land that Hashem Elokecha doireish oisa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always seeking and looking after Eretz Yisrael. Tamid, all the time, Einei Hashem Elokecha ba. The Torah tells us that Hashem does not take his eyes, Kaviyachol, off Eretz Yisrael. Mereishis Hashana, the beginning of the year, Yad Achar Shana, beginning of the year, to the end. All times Hashem has a special hashkacha, a special, Hashem stands over and watches Eretz Yisrael all day and every day. Everything that happens in Eretz Yisrael is l'mayla miderech hateva. Hashem has a special way. The rules that apply to the entire world do not apply to Eretz Yisrael. There's a special siyata d'shmaya in Eretz Yisrael, and it's for that reason, says in the Nesivos Shalom, that when we speak about koichi ba'otzim yadi, which a person should never do, A person should never say that it's his doing, but especially when you're in Eretz Yisrael, where Hashem is telling you, I'm watching. There's a pasuk in the Torah where Hashem says, I'm watching over Eretz Yisrael. I'm at the steering wheel. I'm in the driver's seat. 365, 354 by the lunar calendar. Every single day of the year, all day, all night, I'm the one watching Eretz Yisrael. So if a person says, a person thinks that it's them, then it's really, Torah has to give us a special warning about that Koichi v'oitzim yodi and Eretz Yisrael do not go together. And we speak about it by Shemitah, really. The Torah tells us all these things at the beginning of our parsha when we speak about Shemitah, because the inyan of Shemitah is really all about bitachon, where we totally rely on Hashem. That's what we don't work the land. We're not seeding, we're not planting, we're not harvesting, we're not doing any of these things during Shemitah, because we totally rely on Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the Torah tells us, dafka by Shemitah, that through bitachon you're going to be zoicha to Eretz Yisrael, because that's the midah of Eretz Yisrael. The same midah that Shemitah has, where we're hands off, everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is the midah, that is the way to be kind of Eretz Yisrael. And the Nesivos Shalom brings from the Torah to Avos, very, very interesting thing. From the Torah to Avos, he brings from the Leichavitch of Zechus Yogan Aleinu, and he says it like this, very interesting. He says, B'Shem the Rebbe of Zisha, who heard it from none other than Eliyahu Hanavi. Now, I don't mix into these things. I don't know how these things work, but he brings the lineage straight, that the Rebbe of Zisha, he heard it straight from Eliyahu Hanavi, and you have this on good authority here. And he asked, the Torah says that, it's going to come to Shemitah, and we're going to ask, what are we going to eat in the 7th year? We're not going to plant, we're not doing any work in the field. The Torah says you're going to have this question. What are we going to eat in the 7th year? And the Torah gives an answer. I'm going to give you a bracha in the land for 3 years. You're going to have so much. You're going to ask the question, and I'm going to give you this answer that I'm going to command, and I'm going to give a special bracha into the land of Eretz Yisrael, and it's going to supply you. So the question that we need to ask over here, and he's saying this from Eliyahu Hanavi, so it's very important that we learn this lesson. The question we need to ask over here, so 1 second, we're going to ask, and the Torah says you're going to get a bracha. Let me ask you something. What if you don't ask? What if you don't ask? The Torah tells you if you're going to ask, what are you going to eat in the 7th year? You get a special bracha. Wait a second. What if you don't ask? So the answer that given by Eliyahu Hanavi, the Rebbe of Zisha said, Eliyahu Hanavi, is that you know what? That the Torah has to tell you that if you ask, we need to tell you that you're going to get a bracha. But if you have the right emunah, the right bitachon, and you don't even ask a question, you totally rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't even have to tell you. That's automatic. Then you receive the biggest bracha in the world. You receive even a bigger bracha than the Torah is telling you over here. That if you totally trust on Hashem, you don't need the special bracha given to you in the Torah, because that is a rule of Eretz Yisrael. If you don't ask and you totally rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then that's the way it works. That's the rules of the game. You're zoicha to tremendous bracha, and I'm sure that if it applies it doesn't only apply in the case of Shemitah. This is a lesson that it needs to apply in our lives. That sometimes we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for a bracha. We say, the people say, what are we going to eat during Shemitah? But if you don't ask questions, if you teach yourself that we don't ask questions, we rely totally on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then you have the biggest bracha in the world. You have a bracha that is given to people who are Bali B'tachon, people of Emunah. You have the tremendous bracha, and we should all be zoicha to this bracha, to have full emunah and bitachon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the brachas of Shemitah, the brachas of Eretz Yisrael, the brachas of Parnasa, and every one of us should be zoicha to this bracha when we teach ourselves this lesson.